Hey, Brian, I wanted to ask your opinion about something.
Yeah.
There was a little brouhaha on Facebook about the issue of what fans should expect from their band.
I know where you're going with this.
In particular, one of my favorite artists, Floor Jansen, on Facebook provided a long post where she responded to some criticism she'd received, people saying that they weren't happy with the amount of time she'd spent with them, issues over autographs and photos, etc. I'm curious what you think about this, and especially your perspective from the 80s, about what fans should expect from bands.
You know what was interesting for me about this is that one of our Facebook regulars had a different opinion about this than you did. And kind of here's the question. It's, when does a band have to think about exposure and their image versus their security, energy, and time? Floor's response to her criticism had to do with her security, her energy, her time, her comfort level. I don't think there's anything wrong with Floor Jansen saying, look, I don't like to be touched. I'll be there as much as I can. I don't have a lot of time. The Iced Earth, Sabaton, and Revamp tour, that tour is over, and yet Revamp continues in South America. She has to be tired. She has to get up every night for this show, and I appreciate the fact that there are times when she just doesn't feel like going on. And as far as what can fans expect, I think they have to be concerned about their image. I think they have to be concerned about getting out among the fans, because these are some of the most loyal fans on the planet, and without them, they're nothing. And so it's a delicate balance. I think that somehow she has to find the will to go on beyond her energy, security, and time, and yet I think that somehow we have to find a way not to expect her to be our best friend. Do you have a specific thought on this?
Brian, I'll tell you, I attended the Iced Earth, Sabaton, and Revamp concert in Columbus, Ohio, part of a large North American tour that, as you said, Revamp has continued with Children of Bonham down in South America. At my show, and apparently at every one of these shows, the entire Revamp band came out to the merch table after the show. I actually saw Hank, the bass player. He was going into the Chipotle as I was waiting to get into the venue. And let me tell you, the Chipotle that's across the street from Ohio State University, that's the busiest Chipotle I've ever seen. I mean, the line was out the door for the Chipotle. So, but anyway, I saw him going in, and then when he came out, I was like, yay, Revamp, man. And he gave me the metal sign back and shook my hand, and I was like, are you guys going to be signing after the show? It's like, oh, yes.
Cool.
It was very clear. That was an expectation that they be out there at the merch table after the show.
Cool.
I didn't see Iced Earth out there. I didn't see Sabaton out there. That's what they do. Every show, they show up, greet the fans. They're willing to have a picture taken with them, sign autographs. And yet, in a strange way, by doing that all the time and being available, I think that opens them up to even more criticism about, well, I didn't feel special, or I didn't get extra time talking with this musician.
Yes.
I think bands are in a no-win situation, and in some ways, and unfortunately, the better thing for a band to do is not to come out afterwards, because then if they happen to run into a fan, that fan feels special. Otherwise, the fan feels like, well, I'm just getting what everyone else is getting.
Let's look back on my concert experience, which is predominantly from the 80s. I have never been to a show where the band comes out afterwards and sits at a merch table and signs autographs. Any band that does that in any way, shape, or form has my respect. And while I understand people expect that from the bands that are able to do that, I also think that it's sometimes a mistake to expect that very thing. There are just times in life for people in general when they can't socialize, let alone for bands that have, hundreds or maybe thousands of fans expecting them to come out and be their best buddy. We would like to think that they come out and they recognize us and we're special to them, but the fact of the matter is that they meet hundreds of people each night. And the very fact that they're willing to come out and meet hundreds of people each night is a credit to them, above and beyond the call of duty. We can't expect it from them. We appreciate it from them, though.
Brian, part of the dynamic here is, and I, for once, appreciate your perspective from the 80s. When you went to a concert in the 80s and you stood in an arena or smaller hall the assumption was that, I don't know, half the people there had bought the album of that band.
Right.
Is that probably true?
I would think that's accurate.
You go to a concert now, how many people do you think purchased the album?
I would say...
You think 10%?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe. The vast majority have listened to the music online and paid zero. And because of that, the bands have received zero benefit.
I disagree with that. It's kind of like the movies. Movies make most of their money from the concessions. Bands make most of their money from the touring and the merch table. So, you know, expecting to make millions and millions from records and albums and DVDs and cassette tapes just isn't a realistic concern anymore. Holy shit, I just proved your argument, didn't I?
Yes. I mean, I haven't ever paid for the meet and greet, but I totally understand and appreciate bands who offer that as something, because most of the, quote, fans, and I'll make the argument, hardcore fans buy the music.
Right.
But the majority of people at the show did not pay to listen to the music.
I think it's accurate, yeah.
So for the band to provide as another sales option to meet the band, to get an autograph, get a picture for an extra $50, I think it's a reasonable thing.
What can we reasonably expect as fans? I think that we can hope for the best and expect nothing. I think that's a realistic expectation when you go into any concert, whether it be megastar, minor star, 80s, 2010s.
I'm going to disagree with you, Brian, and I'm going to limit my response to the modern era, the post-internet era. I'm going to make the claim that if I bought the album and I'm hanging around after the show with the CD in my hand, I think a band member should sign my CD, because I laid down $15 that most of the people who were in that venue didn't.
Wow. I'm going to say that's a well-thought-out, intelligent comment there, Gomthod. If you could produce the CD and prove that you paid for it, maybe you do deserve a little extra. I don't mind that argument at all.
That's kind of how I feel about it. And that's how I go to concerts now, with the CD liner there in my pocket. And if I have time afterwards, I'm going to hang around afterwards. I'm going to be like, hey, man, I came to your show. You know, I paid money for that, which that's fine.
Yeah.
But I also bought your music, which a lot of these people didn't do. Give me 20 seconds to sign this for me. I think it's a fair request.
Let me throw in a side question here. Have you found that most bands honor that expenditure?
Yeah, I mean, part of my issue with the critique of Floor is she had it down like a machine. I mean, I pulled out my CD liner.
Okay, I'm glad you said
the revamp album.
I'm glad you said CD liner there. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I pulled out my CD liner, and they were like a machine, the band was. I mean, Revamp, they just, went through and signed it in a certain order on a certain page. I ran into the guys in Sabaton about 5 hours before the show, just walking down the street, and it was like, hey, Yoakum, you mind signing my CD? He was more than happy to do that.
Dude, you got them to sign too. I didn't know that.
My experience has been that they are very happy to do that. I guess my point is, I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation.
And I would say for the most part, metal greats, metal bands were metal fans to begin with. They understand that.